COVID-related hospitalizations have hit a record high in Washington state, home to the country's first ever confirmed case of COVID-19. That seemed like so long ago.
It does, right? But now Governor Jay Inslee has announced a new Secretary of Health to combat the virus in Washington, Dr. Umair Shah. Dr. Shah is currently finishing up his tenure as Executive Director of Public Health for Harris County, Texas. That is the most populous county in Texas, and he is here with us now. We certainly appreciate you being with us, and I can't even imagine making this transition. Tell us how you're preparing to go from Texas to Washington State with so much at stake.
Well, Amy and TJ, thanks for having me. And absolutely, making a transition is hard enough when you're going from a state like Texas to going to Washington, so many miles away, and obviously taking the family and all sorts of things. But at the same time, it's an incredible privilege to be asked to join Governor Inslee's cabinet.
And Dr. Shah, you're going to be in a position now to really influence policy there in Washington. And you tell us that you want to bring science, evidence, and common sense to this pandemic. It's hard to imagine a lot of science and evidence really at this point is being questioned. What common sense do you still see missing in our approach to this pandemic?
Well, I think the first thing, and everybody has said it, and I don't want to belabor it, but having a national strategy, that means that you have 50 states and localities across the country not trying to figure it out on their own. I think that's an incredible first start. But the other thing that's absolutely critical to this is that we talk a lot about the science of medicine and the art of medicine. Well, I also believe there's a science of public health, but there's also an art of public health. And we know that every decision in this pandemic throughout the country, throughout the globe, has trade-offs, has impacts, has some impact to a human being, a family, a neighborhood, a community, or a state. And we've got to be thinking about all of that as we think about what we need to do to protect people.
Yeah, and speaking of trying to strike the right balance with science in mind, I know that Governor Inslee has just issued a new round of just restrictions for social gatherings and for businesses. Are you hopeful that this new set of restrictions will flatten the curve there, and do you expect other states to follow suit?
Well, I am, and I think that's the key. Even here with our local elected official, Judge Hidalgo, and Mayor Turner at the City of Houston, Harris County has done two things. One, it said, look, you've got to do things early, and number two is you got to make sure it's strong, it's decisive, and that's exactly why I was privileged that Governor Inslee asked me to join his cabinet, because he's done the very same thing. It's early and it's decisive. And the way I think about it is that, it's really like a rubber band. At the end of the day, things stretch. They stretch in your community, they stretch in a healthcare system. But if you keep stretching, the rubber band breaks.
Are we going to be seeing that rubber band you talk about break in a couple of weeks as we get close to Christmas?
TJ, absolutely. Here's the concern, right? So I always think about it at like a football game. So 2020 was the first half. Right? We are now hitting halftime. Traditionally in a football game or a soccer match, that is the time to recharge, re-energize, re-strategize, make sure you're all focused for the second half, which is 2021. Like you said, vaccines around the corner, all sorts of things that are happening. But if we don't get it right at halftime or right before we get into half, and we do those Thanksgiving gatherings and those holiday gatherings, and we travel and we don't take the precautions, guess what? We're going to have a very, very bad second half. We do not want to do this. We can win this, but we've got to be able to work together, and we've got to take that individual responsibility as well. Because look, I can't go into your home, but I want to ask you to help us do everything you can to protect yourselves and ultimately fight the pandemic.
Well, we know you are working hard. We appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your time. You are a busy man. Thank you for all that you do. Dr. Umair Shah, thank you for being with us today as well.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.